Here is just an example of a curve. Let's label the gradient signs all over the curve. All right? Girls, what sign or gradient signs am I labeling here? Positive. Up until here, can you see in the curve when the gradient is positive, the graph is it increasing or decreasing? Increasing. So we say when we differentiate it, it's increasing when the differentiation form is bigger than 0. Because when you differentiate, what does that find? The gradient. Yeah? So when the gradient is bigger than 0, the curve is increasing. Similarly, when the gradient or f dash x is less than 0 because it's negative, the curve is decreasing at that point. And here's a new term. When the gradient or the differentiation is equal to 0, that's where the stationary points occur where the gradient is 0. Okay? All right? In this exercise, our goal is to find the points on the curve where it's increasing and decreasing and stationary. Another fact, girls, a curve is called monotonic increasing if it's always increasing. Because if we label the gradient signs all over this curve, it's always positive, isn't it? So we say f dash x, or the gradient, is always bigger than 0 because it's positive for all values of x. All right? Monotonic decreasing is likely. If you label the gradient signs, it's all negative. So the gradient is negative for all x if it's monotonic decreasing. So it's always decreasing for every values of x on the curve. All right, let's get to our first example. If you have the booklet in front of you, it says find the values of x where it's increasing for this curve. So what that means, girls, I've drawn you the actual graph here. As we can see, from 2, the curve is increasing, isn't it? So the answer to this, I'll write it now. How do I write it as an inequality? It's increasing for x is greater or less than 2? Greater than 2. So we need to get this answer by deriving it. So let's do it. So if I differentiate it, I get this. And according to the facts that I wrote, if I want to know where it's increasing, what do I need to put? Bigger than 0. Yeah? So that's what you need to solve. 2x minus 4 is greater than 0. And as you can see, if I solve this, I get what I wrote. So that's how you conveniently calculate which points of the curve is increasing or decreasing. Similarly, girls, what would be the answer for which point is the curve decreasing? So this side. Yeah, so for decreasing, it will be less than 2. And the stationary point, girls, where's the stationary point? At x equals to 2. Okay? Question B. It says find any stationary points on this curve. So once again, differentiate it. But if I want to find the stationary point, what's the sign I need to put? Equals 0. And then you just solve for that, which you girls know how to do. It's plus or minus 4. But girls, a lot of silly error comes from not actually finding the y coordinate as well, because stationary point is a coordinate. So I don't know what it is, but look at the answers. You know how to do it. Your answer should be this. Okay? So just make sure you substitute plus and minus 4 back into the. How do I get these two values, girls? Where am I substituting it in? Original. Sub it back into the original to get those. Okay? All right, let's have a look at question 5 now. Question 5, ladies, it says show that this is always decreasing or monotonic decreasing. So the first step, same thing, differentiate it. What's that? Minus 2. How does that show it's always decreasing? Because this is? Yeah. Question 6. Let's prove that this is always increasing. Same thing. Now, this is a good question. How does this expression tell me that this will always be bigger than 0 for any value of x? I don't want your answer. I want someone else's answer. Why is this? You need to know why. Think about the values of x. Whatever you plug in, it's always going to be what? Positive. Yeah. So that's how you prove it. Okay? All right. Question 14. Girls, the question is, there is a stationary point at 3. Find the value of P. So once again, differentiate it. Okay? Now, what does this equal to when x equals to 3? What does all of that equal to if it's a stationary point? 0. So this is equal to 0 when x is equal to 3. So in this case, 4 times 3 is 12. So that's how you solve this question, okay? Sometimes they'll ask you for an unknown given a fact. So you got to do something like that for question 15. I don't want to do it for you girls, but it does involve simultaneous equation. Okay? I was going to give it to you as a guide, but I think you girls are good on your own. All right, now questions 17 and 19, you need to pay attention. I got it wrong the first time. It's a good question, girls. Please stay with me. They want you to sketch a graph. Girls, you're actually going to want to listen to this for these conditions. Girls, I've actually labeled the questions where you want to label this first. So that means at 2, so let's say x equals to 2 here. If that is equal to 0, that means at that point it's a what point? Stationary point. Now, like what we did before, you want to put like a horizontal line just above that point. Now, let's have a look at the second point here. Or you could do it below. I just like to preferably do it above. So what does this mean? Is it increasing or decreasing based on my fact?
Increasing.
Increasing because it's bigger than 0? Yeah? For values x bigger than 2. So this side of the graph, oh sorry, whoops, my bad. For this side, less than 2, we need to draw an increasing line. Increasing line is this because it's increasing. This one, it's decreasing. So for values bigger than x, so it's like that. So curve it out. So here's your answer. You always want to sketch the stationary point first. Okay? They've given you that in that order, but you don't want to go in the question order. Do the stationary point first. So at x equals to 1, above it, put something like that. Now, that's the first fact is a bit tricky. It's always increasing. So increasing for all x except for that point. So it's always increasing. So for both sides, it's increasing. How the hell do you draw that? Let's do this side. If it's increasing, it's got to be that. Yeah, because it's increasing. How about this side? That's the graph. So it's actually this. These are the information given. It's quite complicated because they've given you two in terms of domain. But besides all that, always look at the stationary point first. Now, the tricky thing with this though is you don't want to do both. Just do the first one first. I'm getting to the point. Girls, I need your attention here, please. You want to do that one first because you want to work from the left-hand side then to right-hand side. That's my tip. Right, draw that. Now, girls, tricky part here. I mean, you can do that, but I'd rather do this first. What does this mean?
It's between
It's not a coordinate. If it says domain of that, it means... That's right.
Wow.
So between minus 2 and 5, so I'll put 5 here. Between minus 2 and 5, what are we drawing?
Negative.
Is that increasing or decreasing? So this is what you want to draw between minus 2 and 5. Like that. Yeah? But at x equals to 5, we know it's a stationary point because it's equal to 0. Now, let's do the last part. What's that? Increasing or decreasing? Increasing for this and this. What does that mean?
Up and up.
It's just outside points. This means all the negative side, including the minus 2. So increasing graph, increasing, yeah, increasing, going up. And on this side, we also have to draw increasing. So that's how you do it. All right. So the steps that I did, label it for you. Step number 1. Step number 2. These are questions. Hold on. All right, that's it from me. Thanks, girls. Do the rest of the exercise.